So have you heard of Viktor Navorski from Krakow? He flew into the United States to an airport in New York City, and whilst he was there, the country of Krakow fell into political turmoil, in fact ceased to exist politically. And Victor wasn't allowed to leave the airport either on a departing flight or through the front doors because his passport was null and void. So he had to stay in the airport. It became his new home. And the senior staff in the airport didn't really want to know about him. They had other bigger fish to fry, so they kind of put him in a corner, gave him a few tokens for a restaurant, and just let him get on with it whilst they get on with the important stuff of running the airport, of processing these thousands of people who are arriving every day and departing. The trouble is, Victor was a curious soul and a lover of conversation and people. And people started to get to know him, and he was there for days, and then he was there for weeks. And I forget how long he was there, maybe even months, to the point where he became part of the airport staff, much to the chagrin of the senior staff. They didn't like this because he fell outside of the rules and he wasn't following protocol. And also, they thought that because their regular staff were paying more attention to him, they weren't processing all these people going through the airport as well as they might. And Victor had a lot to teach them about humility and being genuine and the love of someone's country. So some of the people in the airport really got to know him and learn those things from him. He was a valuable addition. And only finally, when the senior airport staff decided to look at him closely and understand where he came from, what brought him to them, what he was trying to do in this airport, and also where he wanted to go, did they decide to process him properly. They took him out the corner of their mind, held him up in front of them, and then they were able to process him, and he was able to get a temporary visa for the US and go out into New York City. Well, that's a fictional character. You may have recognised it already. That's the film The Terminal with Tom Hanks, and it's a beautiful metaphor for you. You are an airport with arrivals, a processing area like the airport itself, and a departure lounge, or the front door. Think of events in your life that arrive at your door and bring with them strong thoughts or feelings or emotions, and I do love talking about emotions. Unlike a lot of men, and that's what I help men do, is process how they feel. So I help them be the ultimate airport. But imagine things arriving in your life and you're not processing them properly. Well, they're just like mini versions of Victor inside of you. You're trying to get on with everything else, yet this thing is bouncing around and not flowing as it should with everything else. And it's only when you look at it and learn from it, learn how it's arrived at your door, what events have led to this emotion being there, learning about it, what it can do for you or what it's not doing for you as well. And only when you truly hold it in front of you and recognise it, acknowledge it and learn from it, can you send it to your departure lounge. And I think that is where you deploy the learnings that you've had from this emotion. So I'll give you two examples. Anger. Life gives you a nudge, and anger arrives at your door. Sometimes it's not a nice emotion. It can bring out the worst in people. So we'll push that down and suppress that. Great, and we'll get on with life. And there's that little Victor. Okay, different character now, but still causing an interruption to the flow within you. It's unfinished business. And it's constantly poking its head and reminding you, hey, you need to come and look at me, but otherwise I'm going to keep coming out. Keep popping my head above the parapet and saying, look at me. So a recurrence of anger. What can we learn from anger? Well, we can learn what triggers it, so we can look out for those events in the future. And then we can deploy that knowledge by doing just that, knowing what's arriving in our world in the next week or month or year, and then knowing what's likely to come up. And so long as we keep processing, we have room. If we don't, we have lots of Victors knocking around our airport. interrupting other things. And then we feel that maybe our emotions are us and our thoughts are us, but they're not, they're visitors. They're not you to your core, although they feel they can be. You might feel that they can be if you're not dealing with them. Now here's the other example, joy. You've just saved someone's life by giving them CPR on the street. You are the reason that somebody is alive and kicking. And you don't talk about it. For some reason, there's not the opportunity for you to talk about joy. And it is bubbling inside of you and bouncing around and distracting you, and you're not a great driver of your vehicle because of it. You're not present in conversations when they do happen because you're trying to deal with the present, but you haven't dealt with what's happening inside of you. So finally, you get the option to talk about how joyful you feel of saving someone's life. And you can tell that important story, and you can learn from it as well. You can recognize what it brings out in you. Maybe it's an ability to tell a story and relate to people and keep eye contact like you never have before. Joy has a purpose. It has an effect on other people, just like anger. So where are you going to choose to deploy joy in the future? And you can look out for events that are coming up, or even create them. If you love that emotion and you want to bring it out in you even more, you can create those opportunities. So all that is happening inside your airport. You are the ultimate processor of life events, of feelings, of thoughts, of emotions. And I wonder, how is your airport doing right now? There's a motorbike somewhere going for it. Lots of emotions on that person's airport. And also, you might have a new arrival from yesterday or last week, but you might have had a long-term visitor, months or years, or a lifetime. And that's linked to a video I'm going to make called What is Your Volcano, which you can go and find elsewhere on the coaching channel. So how do you process things? Well, find a coach maybe. A coach can stand back at a distance from you and see a bigger picture. And they can help you come and stand where they are and see that same differing perspective from what you're used to, and help you become aware of that whole picture of arrivals, processing, and departures or deployment. And it's something that you can't do as well on your own, which is why I have a coach. I do these things with my coach, and I have done these things with my coaches. So if you want to know more and you want to find out how best you can care for your airport, then contact me. We can have a conversation and set you up for a free sample session. It's no obligation, but it's a great way for you to experience coaching. And I love conducting those anyway, so it will be a big tick in my box, so to speak. So, the next time you remember the word airport, or you see one, or anything that reminds you of one, ask yourself, how is your airport?